Tēnā rā koutou katoa. Ako tēnei karakia timataka e hui e tākata. Tua te kahu kura tutu te hehe, tua te kahu kura tutu te roki, te kahu kura uta, te kahu kura tai, te heru kahu kura mai, te kahu kura ki. Te tu mai rā koe te tihi o kahu kure. Mai e te tipua, mai e te tāpito, te haere mai a koe i a whakahoto nuku, i a whakahoto raki. Ko tō mano ko tōku mata. Kuturu mau ki a whakamawa Katrina, haumi e hui e, tae ki e. Hoi anō e mihi atu kia koutou o Karaka tira o te kauni hera tai o ki Waitaha. E mihi atu. Nau mahaere mai o te rohi pōtai o te pātawhito o te kōhaka kai o waro, mō maru o maka tere, maka whakaruru hau o nai tua hururu. Ako uri awa, wai maka riri o te karo, nō reira e mihi atu. Kia koe o te kai whakahaere, you're looking under every day, e mihi atu. Tēnā, mihi atu, tēnā koutou, mihi atu kia koutou katoa. Kia ora.
He's obviously looking for something. I'm not sure what it would be, but right, thank you, Councillor Karakia, for that. We've got a quorum so that we can start, and I think the recording has started. Thank you. There is no change in the order of business, and we'll go to item 2, apologies. I have an apology from Councillor Cranmore, who will be online, from Councillor Robinson, who is travelling, and Councillor East, who's on other council business. I haven't received anything from Councillor Diche. Okay, so we'll record Councillor Diche. Sorry, Councillor Ford. And apologies for leaving early. Probably I'm going to we'll record that Councillor Diche was an apology and should be online, and that Councillor Pauline may have the opportunity to leave a little earlier. Thank you. Any? There's no others. So conflicts of interest, there are not any conflicts of interest that I've been made aware of on this agenda. Public forums, we have no request for a public forum, deputation or petition. Extraordinary and urgent business. Is there any? I don't think so. So there's none of that. Go to 6, notice of motion. We do not have a notice of motion. So we can move to 7.1, which is the unconfirmed minutes of Transport Urban Development Committee, 28th February 2024. On page 9 to 14 of your agenda, there's a recommendation on page 9, which we'll put up. Any matters of accuracy relating to the minutes on the 28th of February? Yep. If there are not, I ask for a mover of that motion that's on the thing. Thank you, Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Edge. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against? That's carried. Thank you. Moving to report items. 8.1, Transport Urban Development and Air Quality Committee Resolution Status Report. And I have Catherine here to introduce that. I think we're all green on that. We're all green on that. So anybody got any questions on any of those items? They're all green, so I cannot see why there should be a question, but if there is, otherwise we'll put the recommendation up. Thank you. So moved by Councillor Mackay, seconded by Councillor Edge. Any discussion? There no discussion. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against? That's carried too. So 8.2 is pages 19 to 28, and this is public transport patronage update. Stuart, General Manager of PT, to introduce this report. Thanks, Stuart.
Okay, I'll take the report as read. Just a couple of things I'd like to focus on, if I may. Noting that continuing positive growth in patronage in February, which was noted in the report. 16% increase on pre-COVID numbers for February and 6.4% year to date up on pre-COVID. Just to give you a sort of a snapshot of March, because we've just got some numbers for March, 10% increase for March against pre-COVID numbers, and that makes us tracking at 7% ahead of pre-COVID year to date. So still tracking for that $14.3 million target. Patronage, not dollars. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? 14.3 million patronage for the year. Still on track to get there, which is the highest patronage since 2010. So that's a great goal. We've done some analysis as a paper notes on level of community engagement with public transport using unique Metro card numbers. And I'd just like to talk about that for a minute because it's a little bit complex. So as you know, if you've got a Metro card, that Metro card is key to you as an individual. And through our database systems, we can isolate individual users and individual Metro cards from a number perspective to help us identify how many unique individuals are using our service. It's important to note that that only accounts for unique Metro card users. So it doesn't include Super Gold customers because they don't use a Metro card outside of peak. And it doesn't account for cash users. So there is no way for us to individually identify unique people in those two categories. So on that basis, you could say it's a slightly conservative number, but as the paper notes, it's around about 24% of the population have used public transport since July last year. So that's quite a good penetration rate, if you like, for the community. The other measure that often gets used is mode share, and I've mentioned this in the paper as well, and that is measured by the Ministry of Transport Household Travel Survey. One thing that we would caution with that information, it's a very, very small sample size spread over 3 years during COVID. So while it says 2.5% mode share for Christchurch, it's important to see the distinction between mode share and number of unique users using public transport. They are two different things. So that's very important to note. That's all I want to say. I'll take questions.
Just in terms of the individual use, when you renew your Metro card, you keep your Metro card, so individuals don't have multiple Metro cards unless they're very bad use.
So just to clarify that there is the potential for someone who lost their card to get a new card, and two things happen there. Our team can typically try and associate an existing user's account with a lost card and associate the new card with that customer. And when we do our technical term parsing of the data, we do this analysis. We've been very careful about making sure we strip out any potential for duplicates. So we're very confident we're looking at unique users.
Thanks for the update, and it's really nice to see the numbers presented in the way that you present them. It's that is quite tangible piece of information. One thing I want to ask is, I think it's now probably past time using pre-COVID numbers as benchmark, and I would probably like to start thinking about pre-earthquake numbers as a benchmark, to sort of like that's when the last big shock kind of happened for our network. And I mean, it's quite encouraging, 14.3 million in this last year is great. And I think it was 16 million or 17 million before the earthquakes. I think June 2010 was 17.1 million for the year just before the earthquakes. But really cool to see, if you look at the numbers that you just talked about and the numbers that we're only 1 million down if we look at that over a year. So it's tracking, this is tracking in the right direction, which is really good. So I'm really encouraged by that. And the investment that we'll do through the LTP will probably start to crystallise that as well. But I did want to ask, can we start using that pre-earthquake as a metric rather than pre-COVID? I think it's well done pre-COVID.
Through you, Chair, yes. So this is the last year we'll be referencing pre-COVID as a reference point. So going forward, our reference point will be this fiscal year in terms of year-on-year growth. and we can use pre-earthquake. That's kind of our aspirational target to get back to there. It's important to note that in doing that, we're not necessarily comparing that with practice. So the network today is very, very different to what it was pre-earthquake. It's smaller, and the urban form is very different. However, the aspiration is to get to that level of patience, so that's very reasonable.
I mean, the city is bigger, and you know, we need to have something to aspire to. If you know what I'm saying. And my second question would be here, and I'll just look at my red dots here. The fare box recovery bit that you've got on page 24, 25, fare box report, all fares, including all the other stuff. What is it just for? What is it just for the fares? Like patrons, not like Super Gold, community connected other things, because they at the moment, in my opinion, are skewing that number a little bit because they are higher proportionately than they were back in 22, 23. So what is it? What is the fares fare box recovery just for like people?
Yes, I don't have that number. It's important to recognise, though, that the methodology currently set by NZTA to calculate fare box is what we do here. And the rationale behind that is that we look at Super Gold as an example. The funding that the Crown is providing for Super Gold customers is effectively a substitute. So if that substitute wasn't there, then those customers would be paying here. A bit like a corporation subsidising their staff to use public transport. And so that's why in the current methodology it's included, because it's seen as a substitute for fare income. The Community Connect concession is the same again. It's a substitute for the customer paying the fare. However, it's likely that the methodology used to calculate the fare box is going to change. That was signalled in the draft GPS that came out earlier this year, so we'd expect to see some communications and policy changes coming out of NZTA in due course.
Just that is pretty much why I was asking that, because what I'm concerned about is that we're haven't been sort of chasing our tail here. And the other thing is that I was aware that my Guardian's quoted 8% at this article recently, so it's kind of like trying to see which factors or which source of truth is the actual truth of what was referenced. I'll go back and try to thank you.
Good, thanks, Mr. Chair. Well done. I concur with Councillor Swig's presentation of the data. Fantastic. I've got a couple of questions. One is numbers. It's really great to see, but can you speak to the quality of experience of the numbers of people using?
Council will be aware that on an annualised basis we do a Metro user survey, and that typically gets done in May. So we'll be shortly going out to our community to survey their experience of consuming our product. Historically, we have achieved a customer satisfaction rate of 95%. 95% of people are satisfied with their experience with public transport. And that's been a consistent number even through COVID, even through the time where we had driver shortages and reduced reliability. We still achieved that number, noting though that one of the things we measure is reliability of the service, and that score was lower because of driver shortages. But in May we'll be asking that question again, so I would say in July we'll have the answer.
Good, thank you. That is awesome, brilliant. And I've got one question. It's kind of a bit out there, but so we're talking about when your measurement dates are. So when we look at the pre-earthquake stuff, did the numbers of users of the public transport, did that include the yellow shuttle bus that used to?
No, that was not part of the public transport service.
All right, Stuart, I've got a question for you on page 27 when we look at the annual average subsidy per trip for total mobility. That seems to be getting serious. what's the leading question? Yeah, thank you very much. Councillor Swartz. So the sustainability of that keeping going up, Stuart, because, you know, the numbers are pretty impressive in terms of people that are picking that up. I mean, increase, 32% increase February versus February, which is pretty substantial. But the numbers are, the numbers in terms of subsidies are pretty helpful. So.
Yes, so just to clarify how that number is derived, it recognises when you're a total mobility customer, you pay a portion of the fare for your journey to the taxi operator. And so a portion of it is subsidised. And so council will be aware that government introduced a 50% concession for total mobility users 2 and a bit years ago, and recently made that permanent. So what that means is the amount of subsidy, as you can see, has gone significantly up. But a lot of that significant change is coming from the government, not from Environment Canterbury. However, having a significantly more affordable service means it's consumed more, and we see that in our data, a significantly higher rate of consumption, which means our contribution has increased because of more rides being taken. So that is the consequential impact for public transport authorities around the country, as they are having to provide more ratepayer money to support the increased usage and consumption of total mobility services due to the higher subsidy rate.
So that's just one of those things that the community provides. The consultation process around that increased. Is there a requirement, or possibly will there be a requirement in an annual planning plan, not a long-term planning plan, obviously, to see how comfortable the public are, or do we just gang this can't? You know, that's what it is. So that's what we get. I mean, how does that work?
So each public transport authority has the autonomy to set the level of subsidy per trip for a total mobility ride. And so that determines how much contribution the ratepayer makes for those trips. So council could choose to review that level, given this change from the government, and consider whether or not that subsidy level, that threshold, is appropriate. That might be a conversation through an annual plan process, because that would influence how much funding is derived from the local state.
And is it by trip or is it by distance?
It's a set amount per trip. Obviously, the longer the distance, the higher the cost, but there is a threshold and setting that threshold as well.
So the user would pay above the threshold. Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you. Anybody else? Claire.
Mine is building on the line of inquiry of Chief Scott. Just, I'm sure that I've said it with council and we have reviewed this before. Can you just refresh my memory? Did that come through a GCP directive, or is it something that we could do as part of our deliberations, or something to be considered prior to, subsequent to anything?
So the total mobility settings are wholly in the hands of council. It's not part of any other party's input or decision. So council can take those considerations themselves through an annual plan process.
Yeah. On the bus incident change, there's incident time for other, like the big one at the top, but it's noticed in here that it's being looked at. So is the process for that to come back to us through the next meeting, like when we have a next committee meeting? Is that how that's going to be refined for that committee?
So what we intend to do is to take those items that are in the other category and determine whether there are any commonalities in the nature of those issues so we can create new categories and then report on those categories going. I don't think I can commit to having that all done by the next report. I can give you a progress update if that would be helpful.
Thank you. Thanks, Stuart. I don't think there's anything more. So if there's nothing, oh, great.
Yes, Stuart, I was going back to Theon's point about the COVID pre-work thing. So I think in the report, I think you said that potentially this year we're tracking to be better than 2010. Is that what you said? So that's pre-earthquake, right?
So, sorry, to clarify, better than the fiscal year 2010-2011, which was the first fiscal year post-earthquake.
So just thinking on that one, I know sometimes it's been mooted about having actually a trip per capita rather than a trip because of the changes in population, so that sort of thing. That's maybe a more sensible measure that reflects the possible population that might use that. So is that something we should consideration?
Yes, so Council might recall when we were going through the impact framework ahead of developing the core services model and the long-term plan, we identified a range of measures for each of the core services, and trips per capita is one of the measures we intend to deliver.
Sorry, I don't know where it is in the report, but I would like to see if there's a bit more there we go. Missed trips, not missed trips. Delays in the trips in the last month. It looks like a bit of an outlier. Is there any reason that happened?
Yeah, so we did some looking into that, and I think I noted in the notes for the dashboard that it transpires that February it's a common occurrence for the month of February, that the number of trips that don't start on time is more prevalent in February. Missed trips in February, there's no specific reason why that will have occurred for February itself. It's an anomaly, not a normal. February is an interesting month because everyone comes back from holidays, schools start, and so there's a lot more traffic on the road that we note, and that has an impact on our network.
Okay. So the motion that has been moved by, thank you, Stuart. It's been moved by Councillor Davies and seconded by Councillor Sweets. So any further discussion? There's no further discussion. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, and that's carried. Thank you very much.
Well, you didn't look up and you didn't for the second before you moved on. I just wanted to say I'm actually really proud of our public transport team. I'm looking at this, I just think we're doing really well, and thank you, and I really appreciate it. And I really like as well as subsequently we've got our UCS response, and I think we're laying it out there and we're telling them what we're doing and why it's important to get in public discussion. So I just want to say that.
Well, my apologies to you, Councillor. I thought we were done, but we're not. All right. 8.3, thanks, Stuart, which is Derek. Stuart and Derek. And I see, just before you go, I see that you did the run through and there's a note here, public seeing previous briefing. So this is, public haven't seen this, is that what you're trying to say here? I'm just.
Oh, it's my note. It's essentially this is us making public visible.
Yeah.
What the.
All right. No, it's fine. It was a personal note. Thanks, Derek.
Okay. I'll take the paper as read. The purpose of the paper is to provide an update on the cruise ship response this season. Just on a note of that, the season officially ended on Monday. That was our last cruise ship of the season and the ovation of the seas. Paper highlights the changes this season compared to the last season, predominantly resulting from efforts to lobby the industry and work facilitated by Christchurch NZ to get the price of shuttle buses provided by the cruise lines much lower, much more competitive with our services. So those mostly are priced at $15 return, and we're charging about $10 for a day pass on the metro services. The result of that has been a significant reduction in demand for our services to a much more manageable level. As a result, we've been able to deliver a successful response this season. We've still not received any complaints regarding the performance of the EA service in relation to cruise ship passengers. We are also well under budget with our response. Partly, we had a pretty significant reduction in the cruise ship schedule. So the draft schedule we forecast budget to had about 20% more ships in than the actual final schedule and ship visits that have happened. The reduced demand, obviously, we've been able to reduce our resource allocation on each cruise ship day in accordance with reduced demand. And I think as well, we got started a lot earlier this season. We had resources in place, we did advanced planning. We were able to get quite a lot of cost efficiencies for our contracting this year. Anticipation is that next season will be similar. There's still quite a few unknowns in terms of the schedule and pricing, but we expect it to be broadly similar. I do think it's worth flagging a couple of risks around next season though. Partly cruise ship pricing, that unknown is a big one. They're really significant for us. We're still working with industry to confirm what price the cruise ship, the shuttle provided by the cruise lines will charge. And the other one is potential implementation of the national ticketing system. Once that comes in, cruise passengers will be able to use other services just using their credit cards. So they'll be able to access the same fare level as MetroCard users. So currently we charge a $10 day pass. Effectively, that day pass will probably be $5 next season once NTS comes in. So again, that's potentially drawing demand towards our services. There's a bit of uncertainty around implementation dates there. And, yeah, I'll take questions.
Sure. Just like the previous paper and the congratulations there, I want to congratulate you guys actually because someone who lives in the vicinity of Littleton and has watched very, very carefully and closely the whole operation since the beginning of the cruise ship season. And as your paper has said, it's actually worked. And so well done, actually. We're not even getting much sort of negative comment from business and all of that, which I thought we would because the impact of the cruise lines running buses from the ship directly into Christchurch. So that's another plus. If you can please, though, particularly the businesses, you've seen how detrimental that's been. But I'll make the point that not every business is actually negative. A lot of them actually are very positive about cruise ships and passengers and trying to Manaki and provide services for them when they visit the Port of Littleton. My question is that you've got on page 31 the challenges. And so number 20, the first one is that you've identified variable demand. Is that not the nature though of this kind of business? Is that you're not quite sure, exactly what it's going to be? And I know probably your operational arrangements are not exact, but they're around kind of, I don't know, 10%, 20%, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. It's life. It's just what we have to deal with. So we have to make sure that our response is flexible enough to cope.
Yeah,
we continue to do that, is there technically wrong? No, like, so it's really just a kind of hit and miss thing, is it? But it will be impacted if suddenly the cruise ships start putting up their prices again.
Yeah, definitely. And there were some ships in this season that were priced, a small number of them priced at $20 US. That's about 30 New Zealand dollars. And that makes a really big difference in the proportion of people we take from those ships. We rely on the best communication we can get with the ground handlers for the cruise lines. Even they don't always know until the night before what kind of level of demand to expect. So it is all very last minute, and that is to be the nature of the industry. We are still pushing the industry on kind of improving that, allowing us to plan a bit more in advance. But I don't know whether it's actually feasible to get any better than we've got.
Yeah, just reiterate, well done, awesome job, and to Peter and Vicky and Paul and Nook and others that really worked on this to try and get a solution with Christchurch, New Zealand, and City Council and stuff. Well done. My question is, well, a couple. So that the NTS thing and the credit card thing, just to clarify for me again, that's if they register there. No, they don't have to register.
No, so one of the benefits of the national ticketing system is that you can get on and off the bus with your bank card. So you're not required to register. You just become an anonymous traveller. And so from people who are visiting our city through the airport or just driving through the city or on a cruise ship, will be able to access our public transport service without doing anything else. Whereas today, of course, they either have to pay cash or they have to get metro cards. It's a barrier there.
And that's not a discounted fare. It's just a standard metro card fare. But if they want to get the discounted one, they have to do the registration process and all that, right?
If they want to access one of our concession fares, under 25s or something like that, then they need to register.
And my other thing, so the 450k for the year that cost us, the 60 or 70k revenue, is that come off that 450k or was that?
Yeah, that's to be deducted from the 450k. It's less than 450.
And have Whakakapi contributed to that at all?
They have for this season. We do not know yet if they will for next season.
Their cost being 450 as well. No.
So they pay 51% of the net cost. If we assume the net cost is around 400, for the UK will pay around 200.
Actual cost of the financial year is going to be way less than that, but we don't know if that's secured going forward. Okay, thank you. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you. Look, your report makes it, I think, makes it clear. Correct me if I've misinterpreted it. The reason why we haven't had our public transport service over inundated with cruise passengers is because the difference in pricing between the shuttle buses and the BT was small enough that the cruise line passengers didn't mind which option they took. And if that's what, if my conclusion from the report is valid enough, then what is your strategy to, given all the uncertainties you've got with dealing with cruise lines and with Christchurch, New Zealand, and our own PT budgets? What strategy you've got to try to make sure that that differential is continues to be so low that they go one way to go and
Yeah, so I guess there's two things here. Partly the reduced pricing and closer to parity level on pricing has reduced the demand, but partly we have responded to every major cruise ship. We have put extra buses on it, and that's worked. And it's the two of them working together that's made the impact. In terms of moving forward, the plan is to continue to lobby the industry over the off season. We are looking ahead as well at 2 seasons hence when we should be on national ticketing system the whole time. We know that our but the cost of using our buses is likely to be significantly lower than it is today to passengers. So it's how do we get the cruise line shuttles down to a similar level? And so, yeah, the work is all on lobbying industry. We're working closely with Christchurch and Red on that.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem to me that part of the strategy really needs to have work.
Yeah, I mean, the decision on by the cruise ships to set their prices outside our control. We can influence it, but we can't control it. So while we can lobby, as we say, there's no guarantee that they will set a price that aligns with our costs. And as I think was mentioned, council will have the opportunity to review the fare policy at the end of the fair trial, and so council could make some decisions in that process to change the fare price for public transport in general.
I guess what I'm trying to suggest is that we should have a strategy outside just lobbying the cruise lines, because they've got various options. One is just go to the port. We should have a strategy working with Christchurch and whoever else we need to work with to work out how we can make sure there's an acceptable price difference. And I don't know what that looks like, but you're smart enough to work out a solution, I'm sure.
Yeah, my question is in the same vein really, and so one is make sure that if councillors can be supportive in any way in that lobbying, please let us know as soon as that's possible. I know previously the cruise line said, well, we didn't know that it was going to play out like this. We didn't have the opportunity to put our prices up in terms of when we, you know, the fare that we charge for our total cruise, which actually includes price it in the itinerary. That excuse isn't really there this time around, so I would like to hold them to that in whatever way we can. What I wonder is, like, we know our community has not been complaining that we haven't had significant impact on them from the cruise, and there's got some positive feedback and silence is wonderful this time around. Do we know whether there was responses from the passengers back to the company in terms of their experience? Because I can't believe that passengers who were caught up in all of that delay and the bus exchange, potentially worrying about getting back to their ship in time, all those sorts of factors. I mean, that must have been something that, yeah, I wonder, do we know if the cruise lines heard from that? But I feel we should be pitching to them how what's smooth for our community is also smooth for their passengers, and that it's worth them making sure that that continues that way. I just wonder, are we making an argument, or do we have some data, or do we know from PSA anything along those lines?
We certainly don't have any evidence of that. We don't have the information. Anecdotally, we know they weren't having the best experience. Whether that translates to a complaint going back to the cruise line, you know, it doesn't translate to complaints going back to us, probably because a lot of tourists don't know who to complain to. So short answer is we don't know. Doesn't mean we can't find out.
On that, but I'm just, what do we have? I mean, there were certain newspaper articles out at that time. There were photographs of, for example, that corral queue in the exchange and so on. And some of the anecdotes that we captured, would it be helpful to sort of put that into a bit of a dossier to share back to those cruise lines to say, no, we would just like, as Troy said, your passengers are mixed up in all of this, as are our, et cetera. Because there's quite a lot of bad press around the globe at the moment in terms of the cruise line industry on communities at a global scale. So, you know, that whole social license is quite important. I just wondered if we can build a bit of a story to distract them and say, hey, it's in your interest as well.
Thank you. I think we'll end that here, unless there's further discussion. I must say, before we get to the resolution, Derek, you did put some hard yards in here, and I saw the nervousness on your face a few times before we actually got going. But I think you prepared us well for that, and we had good warning on it. So And I think the end result is due to the hard work that you guys have put in. So, Stuart and Jared, thank you, and pass on to others also that need our thanks for that. I don't think councillors need any more patting on the back for their roles in this. But well done. Okay, so can I get somebody please to move that resolution? Thank you, John Sunkel, and thank you, Councillor Pauling. So moved by Councillor Sunkel, seconded by Councillor Pauling. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against? That's carried. Right, moving to 8.4 winter gear work program update, and we have a new person in the room. Delinica Silva. So Delinica, you and Jess, or Delinica, or you're going to do. I've got all the wrong names here, Brian. To Delinica or to what? Or to Jess? Come on. Delinica, you come up too, please, because your name is against this. Oh, is it later? Why have I got it here? Really? My apologies. I've been misinformed again. Right. But we'll have to just put up with you, Brian, I guess. So over to you, Brian.
Through Mr. Chair, I'm here to present the Clean Air program, including the winter work program update 2024. I take the paper as read. I'd just like to note the following key points. In the lead to winter 2024, we're undertaking a proactive campaign across the region to inform householders of wood burners that are about to expire. Environment Canterbury will continue to implement a temporary waiver scheme to provide leniency for the elderly and those with serious health issues. We will continue to respond to smoky chimney complaints, providing education on better burning, as well as advice on replacing expired wood burners. Warmer Cheaper campaign operates region-wide and through UCAN website for advice on better burning and using the right fuels coupled with encouragement to check expiry dates on wood burners. The subsidy scheme continues to gain traction with a marked uptake in applications. As of yesterday, 41 low-income households approved for grants to a total of the most recent total of $138,000. Just a note, the winter home heating program focuses on air quality management within gazetted air sheds, with a focus on home heating, management of non-compliant burners and smoky chimney complaints to ultimately reduce domestic emissions. I'm happy to take questions of the fuel online as well. Answering questions.
Questions, Brian?
Thanks, Brian. It's just related to item 19 on page 38. About you're mentioning some home visits were planned for Karakia in March. I just wondering, was that a successful exercise, and were people on track to improve their or change their system?
Yes, it did take place. Obviously, bearing in mind a lot of people are not home during the day, but the people that we engaged with were positive and are taking steps to remediate the actions that we suggested. It depends on when the burners are expiring. It will be reliant on that.
Sure. Thanks for the report, for the paper. Actually, just leading on from Councillor Edge, and it's more around ethnicity. Because I know that there's a number of, say, Tuihui, that area, a lot of them actually have old wood burners. Have you got any kind of data there on how that's been?
No, I honestly say I don't. It's not something that we are aware of before we go there. Because people, their background background or anything like that. It's really just sort of based on this, the advice that we're giving to the inquiring again. We've got to go back to
In the public of Verona, say around there, and monitoring kind of, pollution levels, smoke and burners. There's nothing to say that, there's actually out of date burners that are operating and they haven't taken any notice of, the letter or whatever.
No, it's not. No.
I've heard some response to the letters and people kind of treating it like they used to have when you had TV license. They come and knock on the door and they never home. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, just related to the airshed metering device, is that located in central Kaiapoi or the industrial area in terms of the relationship between the core Kaiapoi?
I'm not exactly sure where the device is there. June may know. She was involved in this air program before I was.
Usually, they're usually positioned in the worst place for air quality in that airshed. The airshed's online, and I don't know where it is in there either. The criticism always is, well, why put the airshed there? It's the worst place, but that's the best result.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Apologies for that. As you know, I very strictly obey everything that you intended for us to do. And I can assure Councillor Karakia, there are definitely people in the Waltham area too who clearly have older wood burners. Yeah, quite possibly. Mine is around those older ones. And can I just say, I've received a letter, and it's a very good letter, very clear what it's about and what I need to do. So fantastic for that. But do we? Are there specific areas in the urban area? I guess as a Christchurch Central councillor, where we have a number of, a higher ratio of complaints about smoky, smelly burners?
Smoky chimney complaints have no favourites. I mean, they come from, right across, the Christchurch urban area. So there's no more areas susceptible to this than other places.
Can I just follow up with a second question too? And do we, well, that being the case, how often do we operate campaigns around smoky burners, firewood, etc.?
This is ongoing during the during the winter season. Ongoing comms, ongoing visits to retailers, ongoing authorising and checking with providers. So it's the media campaign that's ongoing throughout the whole program.
And just finally, it's kind of a statement question. I just want to thank you all because we've come a long way from the old days where we used to train down at the footy field with that smoky coal haze that used to hang across the city. We'd be hacking up, mind you, most people smoked in those days, but yeah, so well done. There's no real question.
Hey, yeah, I agree. Really good work, and it's interesting to see the data there. Interesting. I'm assuming that's because in Washstrike is a real coarse particulate, because at 2.5 is 0, which is really interesting. But my question is, and it's sort of related to that, and I think I've raised it before. I think Dion raised it before too. And just asking about how work's going on bringing dust and odour to this formal clean air program. I know it could be something for the new financial year of your LTP, but is there any work going on with that stuff? Just to bring it, I know it's an air plan, but we don't report on anything formal. Is there any work going on with it?
there are ongoing discussions in relation to the overall year work program, consideration being given to whether the work that we do within this program could not be incorporated into a wider piece of work as well. Because I've been here before and had discussions about issues with air, and irrespective of the plans and regulations, people have issues with air and they don't necessarily like to see it stuck into the boxes and other little portfolios. So I think it's a good point to make that consideration is and needs to be given to having a more encompassing approach to it. So not just necessarily focusing on this or ignoring this, but bringing it under that umbrella.
Okay, anybody else?
Sorry, I'm just looking at this clean air sheet. Yeah, yeah, it doesn't look as though it's 3 years, isn't it? So if the community is not in the issue, they have to worry. Oh, cool. Great. I've sorted it. Yeah, I've sorted it. Thank you.
It's the thing that stands out for me, Brian, is the difference between the different top three between 10 and 2.5, and captures that point that Craig made. I guess the core stuff, and if we do here this 2.5 as the standard, then the ranking is going to change a bit, and they get back to home heating, don't they? So, I mean, that's why the issue is to put in place the first instance to bring the home heating open fires under control.
Where we say we communicate across the region on this and in terms of better learning and so on, do we mean literally across the region, or are we really focusing on the airshed areas? And the reason why I asked that is we were talking research quite recently that was showing just how high the pollution can be within really quite small rural villages and the like, where they've got like one of those inversions going on and so on, that you can actually get really poor air quality even though they're really small places, and they would be totally outside of their airshed. So do we still, at least people given the opportunity to go and to at least try and practice better burning, and next time they buy something new, even though they might be outside of the open.
Yes, so whilst we're concentrating on the issues, we still respond and engage with those people in the smaller townships as well. So if you look at smaller places like Pleasant Point, or places like that, or Fairley, or places like that, we still engage with that community as well.
Thanks, Brian, for that. Obviously, this is going to be ongoing and awaiting a new standard. Are we anticipating at any time soon?
Not any time soon.
We've got the motion in front of us. Thank you, Greg, for move that. Seconded by Dory. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against. And that, excuse me, that's carried. Thank you. So the next report is 8.5, and it's a report from the chair. And my intention with this is just to take it as read. This is an opportunity under the items that are in this report for councillors to make comment in this forum about those items if they want to. I don't necessarily think I should be leading this conversation. I guess there's one point here, which is the last bullet point under 3, the letter from Te Whatu Ora. Craig, you got something you want to say about that?
Yeah, kia ora, Peter. Hey, thank you for this. Yeah, I think we've definitely updated councillors on this, but this is the first time it's probably gone public. I know there was a air quality update out to our database last night, so that's really good as well. So yeah, this just follows some letters that we wrote to the Te Whatu Ora
and also rewrote another one to MFE at the same time on the sort of setback issue as well. But we got a response on this one, which was really good. And after some meetings with staff from Te Whatu Ora, we got a response letter, which sort of indicated that with new information, especially in relation to the World Health Organization guidelines, that they issued a new sort of statement in relation to nuisance dust and health impact. So that was a really good outcome. In terms of just giving some clarity around where that's at, there's obviously a lot of work to do going forward around working with the Whatu Ora, the community, and with the industry on what that all means. But I think that's in our future. So you just really want to acknowledge the work of our staff, and of course Dion, myself, and Peter for actually getting the letter done, and getting it out, and of course the Whatu Ora for their response. So,
yeah, just again, it's actually was quite huge in terms of the change in language that's taking place, and the next step will be on how do we what does it mean for our monitoring and compliance? That's really critical. That's the question that the community is asking us right now, and so we kind of have to sort of get on top of that. I'd actually like to table the letter and have it in the minutes of this meeting. You'll notice if you've got the letters of other letters and stuff like that, we can report, but not this meeting. I think it's quite good to have it in there. So can we do that? Is that actually a thing that we can do? I think it is, essentially. Yeah, so I'll just table it and we can put it into the minutes. So we can actually as well, so let's actually just look at it.
Okay. It's also there about the literature review that the staff have been getting done, and this sort of follows on from the community workshops we had a few years back. And this is to try and look at sort of best practice around the dust mitigation. So you can see there in point 30 the types of things that have been looked at through the literature review, and of course that's come back from the consultant and is back to staff to look at. And when that goes through that system, it'll be great to sort of work on that and get that again with the industry and the community to see what that means as well, because that may have an impact on how we monitor and the compliance around certain activities that generate dust. So yeah, it's all good stuff, and it's come from that support that this council gave in the last LTP actually to do those community workshops to get this sort of work around best practice and also extra monitoring that's been going on. So just big thank you to everybody for it.
I don't want to be disrespectful, but you guys are like a dog with a bone with this. I mean, you didn't let it go away, and that's reflecting the community weren't happy about this issue. And I think the turning point for me in this whole discussion was when we realised that the advice that was freely available sitting on our website was in complete different direction to what the medical officer of health is saying. So having that removed has helped, because it can now not be referenced in any consenting process, and that makes it a little bit another hurdle for other people. So well done to you guys on that piece of information. Look, I've got one thing I just want to comment on here, which is the recent housing announcements made by Minister Bishop, and he unveiled those in a discussion that he had with the Wellington Chamber of Commerce in February. And are very closely aligned to the piece of work that's in the Christchurch Spatial Plan around housing, which is very good to see. And in a conversation with Minister Bishop, he's pretty keen on coming and looking at that sort of infrastructure across Canterbury, that's across GCP, that's detailed in the Christchurch Spatial Plan. So that's pretty encouraging. It's good to know we're on the right track here. Has anybody else got anything else they want to raise around those headings? If not, we'll put that. Sorry, Dion.
I just wanted to also say, actually, two things. One is that I think we need to get something to the Christchurch City Council to update their website as well, because they actually have the old so something I saw the other week. And I just wanted to also reiterate again the disappointment around the lack of public transport funding from the government and the GPS. I actually think it's just ridiculous. And I think this government that really doesn't care much for public transport in the South Island or investment for that matter. So I just wanted to sort of publicly state that because I'm quite annoyed by it. And I hope we are getting that point across.
Your point's well made. Cap, go.
Just on 53. Point number 7. Again, yeah, just on that submission to the Ministry of Transport. Yeah. Again, we just use a typical cogent paragraph there, particularly about we want to highlight the importance of land aspirations for Māori, specifically of Ngāi Tahu and Canterbury. That's it. It's something that actually needs to be highlighted in the talking through around that, because it is just I mean, you read this all the time, and there has to be more. We need to be championing this thing around, because one of the biggest problems is obviously with Māori land tenure and all of that sort of. It's about the understanding. Actually, you say that, but do we really mean it?
I think it's a good point, but I think the point also is the fact that it's hard to engage on every specific issue and get an opinion. Yeah, but
I mean, what you just said is actually kind of just puts us in a kind of or it's just another problem. But I mean, this is directly involved with the Treaty Department. It's directly involved with mana whenua tangata. And that's the way that we need to actually start profiling, highlighting it without, and put more into it. I'm just making that point.
Okay, well, that's good. Look, we haven't started with table, so we'll follow that up. I'll follow that up with you and see if there was a process that did reach out to Runanga, and I'll get back to you specifically on that. Now, Catherine, have you got something on this?
Okay. Just a discussion in terms of the submissions that have been made on the GPS from 3 parties, in terms of ourselves, expressing the frustration at the GPS and the lack of funding for Canterbury, and I think it's very good that you've obviously could have highlighted it a bit more, but we've highlighted the issues about lack of funding for transport. Hopefully the message comes across and something might come out of it, but it sounds like your discussions with the ministers is really helpful, and especially for Greater Christchurch Partnership, them understanding what we have done collectively to address housing as well as transport and in relationship to those. I've got, so that's what I was going to say on the GPS, but in terms of the housing discussions, the minister's talking about he wants to fix the housing. I mean, that's been going on for donkey's years. Was there any mention of the labour market and the physical ability of our construction industry to actually build these things?
I think my reference to you will be, if you go and look up his speech and see what he did say there. I think that structural issues that need to be investigated are some of the work that Lucy's doing here in Christchurch. I know Lucy Dublin, to understand what the capacity and capability is, bring up the land. But in general, I guess the challenge here across everyone is to tell us what you're going to do over the next 7 years. If you look at Timaru, for example, population hasn't changed in 20 years. Old people come in, old people die, more old people come in, more old people die. There's nothing going on there for the young people. Essentially, it's like wash, rinse, repeat. $5 million houses. That's what we're doing. So there's no housing stock down there for people that want to get in at a cheaper rate. Anyway, I'm going to get done. For, I'm going to get worked over by me when I go. So Catherine, I was going to ask you if you could, if we could do something about informing ICC and terms of it. And then just in response to what you said, I'm with the Minister tomorrow, the Minister of Transport, Energy and Local Government, and we've got a pretty specific program of work that we want to go through with them. Based around GCP, we're taking our transport mapping stuff up to them, and so hopefully we can make the points that you've made here, which we make every time we see them, but just where they go anywhere or not. But that's the job that we'll stick to that. Okay, so I'll move that and two and two receives Dr. Raymond Patrick. You're second it. Yeah. And second it by Councillor Swift. Okay, so we have all those in favour, please say aye. All those against, and that is carried. And I know that the next thing we have to do is go to public excluded. And I know that John Sunkel will want to move there. And do we have a second? We're seeing the vote, Councillor Pauling. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, carried. So we'll just give it a few seconds. The next meeting of this committee, Urban Development and Air Quality Committee, will be Transport, Urban Development, Air Quality, will be on the 29th of May, Wednesday. I now declare this meeting closed.